Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Pet Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Roberta Westbrook, and you're here with us at the Campus for All Animals, the Houston SPCA. So it is summertime, and we are all getting ready to consider vacations and traveling and whether or not we're able to take our pets with us. Any vacation is wonderful if we can take our family members with us, including our pets. So I'm going to give you a little bit of travel tips and things to think about if you're going to be traveling with your pet this summer. If you've been with us for any length of time, you know we've discussed a little bit about traveling tips, but we're going to give you some alternatives to think about in the event that you can't travel with your pet this summer. So while you're thinking about questions, please take a look and meet our pet of the week this week. Is Joel. Joel is such a sweet, handsome boy. You know, Joel and his buddy were abandoned, unfortunately, and they were brought in by our Cruelty and Investigations Department after they were abandoned. And so Joel is very sweet. He's a little shy. He's getting used to new people, but he warms right up to you, and he is looking for his next loving home. So please consider coming on down to our adoption center and meeting with Joel and all of the other dogs that we have available for adoption. We are still doing our promotion, our VIP promotion, where you can adopt one of our VIP pets for 50% off the adoption fee. It's been wonderful. We've had wonderful people come in and visit with the pets and decide to adopt a pet. And so it's been great for the pets, great for us. So please come on down any day, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Okay, well, let's get started because I want to give you information about traveling with your pet this summer. So, one of the things that I want to talk about is, we'd love to take our pets, but sometimes taking your pet can be difficult. It takes a lot of preparation. I'm going to give you some things to think about in terms of preparation. But in the event that you cannot take your pet with you, what are some alternatives? What can you do? And so I want to talk to you about the opportunity to have someone take care of your pets in your own home. There are some benefits to doing this because when you travel with your pet, particularly if they aren't used to it, sometimes it can be stressful for them and stressful for you, and there could be things that you forget. So considering maybe having someone tend to your pets in the home is a wonderful alternative option. And you may say, well, who can I get to do this? Well, some easy people that you can consider might be other family members who your pets are used to, know, and like, maybe friends, again, that your pets know and like. You can talk about this with your family and friends, give them access to your home, give them keys, leave instructions for them while you're out in terms of what your pets eat, where do they find the food, what are their habits like, when do they need to go out on walks, what time do they go to bed, what time do they eat, do they need medications. So what you would have to do to prepare for this is to make a list, a well-written pet care list, so that your family member or friend who's taking care of your pets at home has no question about your pet's needs. So taking some time to sit down and write out your routine with your pets so that someone can get used to that is a really good alternative. Again, having someone, a family or friend, come into your home and take care of your pets.
Should our pet sitter have any CPR or vet tech qualifications?
Oh, that's a great question. So do you want your pet sitter to have any special qualifications like pet first aid training or CPR, or maybe have a medical background like a veterinary technician? These are wonderful. So if you can find someone who has those skills, that would be great. It just gives you a little bit more added security that your pet is going to be able to be well taken care of, but it certainly isn't required. There are lots of wonderful pet sitters out there that don't have any special training. So if you don't have a family member or a friend who can do this, there are companies that provide pet sitters, very similar to providing babysitters for your children. There are companies that provide pet sitters and that can match you up with a perfect pet sitter for your pets, and you can ask for certain requirements. So if you want, maybe if you have an elderly pet, maybe you have an elderly cat or dog that needs medication, has a lot of health issues, you may opt to look for a pet sitter who has those qualifications. That way, if there's a medical issue that comes up, they're going to be more apt to handle it. So even if it's not a family member or friend, some of these companies are able to provide people who have that training. You just have to specify what you'd like for your pet.
And then do you think cost-wise is the same between a pet sitter and a boarding facility?
It's about depending on the individual who's coming into your home and their fees, it could be a little bit less expensive or about equal. So taking your pet to a boarding facility averages about $35 to $40 a night. Sometimes visits to your home can be much less expensive, particularly if you're just coming once a day. Maybe if you have cats and maybe they just need once a day feeding and checking on, sometimes that can be less expensive, like $20 to $25 a day or per visit, depending on the needs of your pet. So it could be comparable or less expensive, but remember, you're also weighing the benefits of having your pets in the comfort of their own home without having to, pack them up and travel with them. So there are definitely some trade-offs in terms of benefits.
And I guess the costs also add up when you have multiple pets as well.
Yes, absolutely. Boarding and in home, multiple pets, there may be additional charges, but oftentimes the charge for additional pets is less than the first pet.
So when researching boarding facilities, let's say we can't find anybody, what are some things to look out for to ensure my pet is safe?
Right. If you want to research boarding facilities, there's lots of options out there. Oftentimes, people are looking for something close to home, so it's easy to drop off and pick up. So location may be important to you, but other things that might be important to you are what is your pet's daily routine going to be while they're boarding. So if you know that your pet loves other dogs or your cat loves other cats, you may ask the boarding facility, is there an opportunity for my dog or cat to interact with other pets while they're here? So that might be important to you. But if you know that your dog does not like to interact with other dogs, that might be a question too. Do they have the opportunity to have private, quiet time on their own so that they don't interact with other pets? So what's their daily routine? Is it free roam where they're outdoors all day, or do they go on walks? And if so, how many and how long are those walks? You may also want to know whether or not that boarding facility has camera access for you to be able to check on your pet while you're gone. So it's always comforting to know that anytime you're missing your little furry friend, that you may want to log into the website and check on them and see how they're doing. Lots of boarding facilities have that, so you may want to ask if they have that opportunity. And then you also want to make sure that they have a way to help your pet if they get into an injury or an accident. What's the process? Do they have staff on site that can help your pet, or do they take you to the emergency hospital? Just understanding how the routine is going to be important. And so do your research, take some time to do that. Give yourself several weeks, up to a month maybe, to do that research and make sure that you're choosing the right facility for your pet.
And I guess the same for pet sitter, making sure that they, feel welcomed with the pets and they kind of know them already.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. If you research the person, have them come in and meet your pets and making sure that it's a good match in terms of personality and comfort level, so that you can be reassured that when you're out that they're going to get along and you have the best chance possible for having an easy trip.
All right, and if we do decide to take them with us, what are some things to consider once we get to our destination that we might not think about when traveling with a pet?
Right, when you're traveling with your pet, again, plan early. Make yourself a checklist so that when you get to your destination, you don't realize that you've forgotten something important. And those important things are, one, just the basic necessities, right? You want to make sure that your pet has a place to sleep comfortably. So oftentimes traveling with a crate is important, and you want to make sure this crate is the appropriate size for your pet. Your pet needs to be able to stand, to lie down, and to turn around in the crate comfortably. It also needs to be able to accommodate a food and water bowl. So just make sure you're choosing the appropriate size crate. It's also a good idea to get your pet used to the crate if he or she is not used to being in a crate. So this may take, again, a couple of weeks of planning to make sure that your pet is comfortable being housed in a crate. If you're going to go on vacation, maybe you're going out to dinner and you can't take your pet, how are you going to house your pet? Is your pet going to be free in the hotel room or the Airbnb, or are you going to crate them? So sort of plan those things ahead. When you're going out to restaurants, who's going to watch the pet, those sorts of things. Make sure that you have proof of your pet's vaccinations and microchip information. These things are also going to be important for traveling. Even if you're driving yourself, having those just in case there's an accident or you need to go to a veterinary hospital in your destination, that you have all of your pet's information on hand.
And you mentioned the crate, obviously, if we're going to be staying at a hotel, but let's say we're going to be driving. Should the pet be free roam in a crate, or what's safer? Or I guess it depends on the pet.
Yes. So when you're in the car, you definitely want to make sure that your pets are safe. Oftentimes, if your pet is just free roaming in the car, some pets may be anxious. They may want to jump around in the car. They may want to jump to the front, to the back. You don't want them to distract the driver while they're driving. So it could be a safety risk. What I would recommend is a seat belt. This way your pet has a little bit of freedom where they're not in a crate, but they are, they are in a seat belt. That way, in a worst case scenario, there's an accident, they at least have a seat belt on, and it may prevent them from maybe being thrown from the car. So a seatbelt is very helpful. And so they can be attached to a seatbelt and then have their little bed right in front of them. So they can lie in the bed, relaxing while they're still attached to the seatbelt. A crate is also another good option, especially if your pet is already used to being in a crate. Then this might be a good way that they can be comfortable in their own space while they're traveling, particularly if they're nervous when they're traveling. Sometimes having a familiar space where they feel protected is a good option. But free roaming is going to be a little bit tricky if you have a pet that wants to be active. But some pets are good and they'll just kind of sit next to you, not be a problem. If you're going to have your pet in the seats, you may consider getting something like this, like a little hammock for your car. So what this is this is a little seat cover. So it's like a hammock that you can attach to the front and the back seats of your car, and your pet can sit comfortably, and you can still protect the seats of your car. And some pets are very comfortable in this hammock, and really it provides less distraction for the driver here. So
and cleaner for your car seats too.
Yeah, absolutely. Protects your seats. So this is a good option.
All right, you did mention, pets can get stressed. So how do we, alleviate that fear of car rides?
Right.
Some of them love them, but some are a little bit scared.
Yes, if you know your pet has a little fear of car rides, what you can do is try to get them used to it and desensitize them to it so that they associate it with a good experience. So first, practice just getting your pet in and out of the car. And when you can give them a treat when they get in the car successfully, and then you can take them right back out and give them another treat and repeat that in and out of the car, in and out of the car. And over time, going to the car isn't associated with a scary car ride. They feel like they can get in and out of the car, and they associate it with a treat or a positive experience. Once you've gotten that down, you can get them in the car, and you can close the door, sit with them, spend a little time in the car, then let them out. And so the idea is you want to build them up to the car ride. So once you're sitting in the car and they do well for 5 or 10 minutes, you can start up the car and maybe go around the block and then get them right back out and give them a treat. And then you can make these little drives longer and longer until they understand that the car ride is not so bad. And again, providing comfort for them on those car rides can also help to calm them. So having a car seat, a seatbelt for them is handy, and a bed for them is also a handy way to help them be comfortable while they're doing those trainings.
And we've heard of like calming medications for these type of events as well. But is it good for like long terms? Like, can they be on this medication? Like, let's say we're going on a 5-day road trip.
Right. So if you're going on a long road trip, talk to your family veterinarian. This is going to be the most important thing, because your veterinarian will be able to get that information from you and prescribe the most appropriate medication. So sometimes your pet may not need lots of medication, and so we want to pick the right one. Sometimes we can use mild medications, and then sometimes we can use heavier medications. But the heavier medications can cause your pet to be asleep for a prolonged period of time, which has its own risks as well. So we prefer not to have to give medication on a prolonged period, especially if it's going to cause your pet to be in an unconscious state for a prolonged period. We want to make sure that they stay healthy. And so talk to your veterinarian about the best case scenario. It could be that maybe this is a trip, if it's going to be 5 days and your pet is really not used to that and it's not going to be good for your pet. Maybe this is a trip where flying might be better, or having your pet stay at home. Now, if your pet loves to travel with you and they love the car, they've been on plenty of car rides, then not a big deal at all. Main thing is making sure that you're not stressed and that your pet's not stressed and that they stay healthy during the trip.
All right, so we do have to choose the route of, flight. What do we need to fly with our pets?
Yes. So you still are going to need all of the things that you might need if you're on a car ride. So still make sure that you are packing vaccine records, microchip information, medication, a crate, all of their toys and food and bowls, everything that you think they might need. So depending on whether or not your pet is going to fly in the cabin with you, or if your pet is going to fly in the cargo where the luggage is, that may depend as well on the size of the crate that you need and the materials that you take. So if your pet is small enough to fit in a carrier and that carrier is small enough to fit underneath the seat in front of you, oftentimes your pet can travel with you in the cabin. If you have a large pet where they're not going to be able to fit in a crate inside the cabin, oftentimes they fit in the cargo area. We do not sedate animals if they are going to be in the cargo area because there's no one to watch them in case they have an accident down there. So we don't want to sedate the pet if they're going to be in the cargo area. If they're going to be with you, sometimes your veterinarian can recommend a mild sedative if it's necessary, just so that they can have an easier flight.
All right, so if I don't want my pet, to be in the cargo area, but they're a little bit too big, can I just claim them as animal therapies?
So this is interesting. So according to the American Disabilities Act, there are service animals and then there are emotional support animals. And service animals are very specific. Service animals are animals that are specifically trained to do special duties that are specific for this individual and their disability. An example of a service animal would be one that's able to recognize seizure activity and protect the human from danger during their seizure, or a guide dog who is able to guide a blind human on their travels. These are specific examples of service animals. An emotional support animal is not trained for a specific disability, but it does provide comfort to the human. So some airlines will require documentation. Airlines will have their own rules about what kind of documentation they require and whether or not having a letter that your pet is an emotional support animal, or whether they require a indication that your pet is a true service animal. So I would say please research the airline that you want to travel. Understand their rules about traveling with pets in the cabin versus in cargo area, and be prepared to provide documentation about what type of pet you have. Do you have a true service pet who has been trained to do specific tasks for your specific disability, or is this an emotional support animal who is providing comfort? Every airline may ask for different documentation.
And then is a health certificate or any additional certificate needed when we're traveling different states, or is it just for special occasions?
Yes, if you're traveling on an airline, they are going to ask for a health certificate that indicates that your pet is free of any contagious disease. So you're going to need to call your family veterinarian, let them know your travel plans, and ask for a health certificate. If you call the airline first, they will also tell you to make sure that you call your family veterinarian to get a health certificate. Typically, health certificates are good for 10 days. So you need to make sure that you schedule this well in advance so that you have the health certificate within 10 days of travel. And sometimes those health certificates, depending on where you're traveling, require some testing. So if you're traveling internationally, sometimes this can take weeks or months to complete a health certificate. So it's just important to know the airline that you're traveling, the country or state that you're traveling to, and what is required to enter that particular area.
Okay, we are going to do, traveling by car road trip. I've heard that dogs cannot get sunburned while traveling in a car because, of course, they're the windows are closed. Is that true?
No, it's just like people. So if the sun is beaming, and your dog maybe has a seat belt and maybe they're sitting next to the window and the sun is shining through the window on that side. Certainly, if they're not able to get out of the penetration of the sun rays and they're not able to get into the shade, certainly could do damage to their skin. And so you do want to make sure that they have adequate shade as well. You can get one of the window covers there to make sure that the sun rays are blocked from your pet the same way that we would want that comfort. So it's still possible. We want to protect them and make sure their ride is comfortable.
So many things we don't think about when we're traveling.
Absolutely, when we're traveling. Great questions. Well, those are great questions. Thank you guys for considering taking your pet on vacation with you. The more we can keep families together, the better. We know it's always fun if you can bring your pet. We want to make sure that you prepare. So just to summarize, make sure that if you're traveling with your pet, that you take time to prepare. This means a month or two in advance, decide how you're going to travel. And whether or not your pet is prepared to travel with you, or whether you would like to keep your pet at home in the comfort of home, and then begin to research pet sitters, and make sure that you have instructions typed out or written clearly out for the needs of your pet, including their food, the amount that they eat, their potty breaks, their medication, so that nothing gets missed, and then proper phone numbers in emergencies. So that can be your phone number, a friend or family member, and the information of your family veterinarian in case your pets have to go get medical care while you're gone. Well, thank you guys so much for taking those tips and asking questions. And we encourage you to come on out to our adoption center. And then we have another exciting opportunity for you to partner with us. Is anybody out there good at golf? And even if you aren't good at golf, do you think it's fun? Because the Houston SPCA's Wildlife Center of Texas is having a golf tournament, and we invite you to register yourself and your friends as a team. We are going to be having that golf tournament on June 3rd at Top Golf in Katy. That's next Saturday, and we'd love to have you and your family and friends create a team, sign up, register. And it helps to support the Wildlife Center of Texas, and helps us to do more good for those native wildlife in our community and get them healthy and back out into the community. So consider all the ways that you can be part of our family. Visit HoustonSPCA.org and look at ways to give, and consider being a foster, a volunteer, or giving through donations. We thank you once again for joining us. And say hi to Joel, and we will see you next week on the Pet Pawcast. Thank you.